What is shaking Winject world? Happy Money Monday. Doug, you look 5 years younger.
Whoop, whoop.
From the intro video.
I know. We got to redo their intro video now that I shaved. It's like, wow, boy, I went back down to 32 again.
Hey, that's a good thing sometimes. I mean, you got to switch it up.
Yep,
you got to switch it up. New house, new look, new everything.
And I'll tell you, I will never get used to that intro. That is like the most perfect. That had to cost you like what, $100,000 to put that intro together. That's good. That's good.
No, well, that's the whole illusion, So we're giving, just kind of like making sure that we're living up to par, right? We're putting up certain standards in place for the Winject community, and this is kind of a perfect example, a reflection of what could happen for all the amazing podcasters and some of the music people and TV people that we have coming on board. And it's just about putting things in place for them to have access. And it's sometimes, I mean, I know that you've been in this game way longer than I have, especially podcasting. I'm not trying to make you feel old, but this is one of the reasons why. I mean, when I got brought to you, when I decided to launch my podcast, and there's a reason for that. I mean, you hold yourself to a higher standard. You don't just do show notes in the Philippines. You have they're hyperlinked and they're properly placed there, and it's not just like a long, huge description. You see those. I mean, they post huge, long things, right? So,
well, because everybody's trying to jam as much information, like, oh God, everybody's going to find me because I got these huge show notes, and I think that it actually has the opposite effect. It turns people off. So that's just one strategy that we try to employ with all of our clients. So yeah, I'm happy I'm looking forward to this. I love this. I love that we'll be doing this on a regular basis. I love bringing the experience that I've learned over producing 1,200 of my own episodes of the Nice Guys on Business podcast and thousands of episodes for other people as well. So I'm excited to be here so much, Chris, and thanks for the opportunity to share your community that will now become my community by proxy. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And to be honest with you, I couldn't ask for a better person. And obviously with the services that we're going to provide for our members of our community. And, I'm not just saying that because I've been around, obviously, the podcasting game. And when my show went live with the trade schools and I was left with a really dope show, I was like, well, I don't want to outsource 7 things, and they're not bought into the mission. They're not bought into my voice of what I'm trying to overall accomplish. And that's something you really do really, really well, is you spend time with the podcaster. And that's where you call yourself what is it? Podologist?
Podcastologist. That's right.
Podcastologist. I like that. I'll get used to it.
Templatize, but at the same time, customize. So if you templatize the right things so that you get the right impact with your audience, and then you customize so you're specific to your client, then at the same time, you're not just sending stuff to us and we're just turning around and generically putting a rubber stamp on it and getting it going. We want to know you. Each one of my clients, we get to know one-on-one. And although, there's mostly a relationship that's built online, you still can get to know somebody pretty well. And, you have people that are assigned that get to know you very well also. And if there's any issue with any of that stuff, you just raise your hand and you say, hey, I need some extra support. And that's where we show the love. I mean, I really do think that that's where the difference between something that we at Winject will do and all of the other companies that, at least in my competitive analysis, have seen. I don't want to be a rubber stamp company. That was never on my agenda. I don't want to have 1,000 clients. It's never where I was looking. I wanted to have, a good group of solid, well-built clients that we can take to the next level. And that's what being a part of a network like this can actually do for you too.
100%. And I like to how you said that. And just to kind of let everyone know, I'm not saying that I won't be going live each and every week with Mr. Doug Sandler, but I will be taking a little bit more of the approach and making sure we have the right schedule in place. We have a couple of members obviously posting inside of the chat right now, which is really good to see. This is specifically and exclusively for Mondays at this time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, same bad channel. You'll see this baby face guy right here talking about the services that he is exclusively going to offer for our Winject community. And just to let everyone know, Kajabi will be going away here shortly, but it's okay. We're not going to pull the plug on Kajabi and not just have it for winject.com. We're moving everything to a standalone system. But in the meantime, I did have my team go ahead and inside of Kajabi, where you see the videos where it says it was official partner, verified resources, or exclusive offers. Inside that video of these lives, we're going to put those links for you to go ahead and, if you need show notes and editing or all the services that I'm obviously have Doug explain here today, to obviously get those services. And that's something you can't just get anywhere. And that's why I love Doug so much. He's going to invest 30 minutes a week, either himself or a member of his staff, who's going to go through all the nuts and bolts in the onboarding process, and everything he does have available for us. And that way there's no kind of, I guess you say, surprises. You know exactly what to expect, what you're going to get, and then obviously the outcome you're trying to get to your listeners. So for the most part, I guess we can kind of just go into that and like, what does the onboarding process kind of look like with the services, different packages you're exclusively offering, and just basically just walk them through.
Yeah, well, there's a couple different levels of service that a lot of people want. So many people come to us and they say, "Hey, we just want an inexpensive way to actually put our podcast production out there to the world." And in which case, we're offering editing of an episode. We're including the show notes. We're going to post to your hosting source. So the only thing that you need to do is record and drag and drop directly into our project management software. We have a system. It is locked and loaded. We've done it hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times with our clients. We know the ins and outs of the system. We teach you a small section of that system, so it's just as easy as drag and drop into our project management software. So that's one level of service. The other level of service is where, okay, you have a show and you get all these services too, but now you actually want to understand how you can monetize, how you can grow your community, and how you can build influence. And that's where we will take a deeper dive with you one-on-one, doing coaching with you, or put you in as a part of a larger group if you feel like you would learn better in a larger group. And we're going to leave that option to you as well. Plus, we'll have a discovery call to figure out what is the best way for you to actually proceed with us. So it's either a more standard level of service where you're just drag and drop, or a higher level of service where we're actually coaching you through some of the monetization, community building, and influence gathering parts of your podcast, which many people want as well.
What does the onboarding call kind of look like, and what does that entail?
It's pretty simple. We have a head trainer. Her name is Jenny, and Jenny actually will connect with you directly, and you guys will set up a time where you can actually walk through the process. It is really something that if I sent you an email, you could probably take it on your own from there, but we don't want to be, we know that some people have a little bit more tech challenges than other people that are out there. So if you don't know how to have access to that, we don't want to be an email away. We want to be a phone call away or a Zoom call away like this. So we'll make sure you get on smoothly. So we'll share with you the process by which you're going to just drop your episodes into our project management software. The nice part about the software is that you can actually log into the app and you can see where we are in the process with each one of your episodes. So if you're somebody that likes to work ahead of time, let's say you like to work 5 or 10 weeks ahead of time, you can see where we are with each one of those episodes. If you're somebody that likes to do last minute, we prefer you work ahead of time. It works much better in helping design a good episode footprint for you. But if you're somebody that likes to work last minute also, at least we'll have the ability. You'll know exactly if you drop it in there on Monday. Okay, on Tuesday, you say, hey, I want to have this out as quickly as I possibly can. You'll know, is it in show notes right now? Is it in production right now? Is it in posting? Has it been scheduled right now? Has it already launched and you just haven't even looked at your hosting source? So we'll be able to walk through all that with you as well.
I really like that a lot. Because you're taking, I guess you would say not the creativity away from them, but you're taking the small things that people tend to oversee. Now go, oh, didn't see that coming.
Well, what's interesting about it is so many of our clients, when they come to us in the beginning and let's say they're either doing the production on their own or they're using another production company, they haven't really templatized their show notes process. So a community member, keep in mind, your community members are going to become your family. Those family members are the ones that are listening to your episodes week in and week out. If you change up the format of your show notes every week, let's say, people are not going to know where to look for certain things like your partner links. If you have affiliate relationships or if you're driving them to a website as opposed to driving them to Apple Podcasts, it really just depends on what you're looking to do with your show. So that initial onboarding sequence, it really helps us to get a really good handle on what you are trying to accomplish with your show, because podcasting is not a one-size-fits-all business. There are a number of strategies that can be put into play to make it work positively for you.
How many, I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this question, but just for the listeners, have you serviced like pretty much every category when it known demand? Because it's obviously that strategy changes just a little bit depending on if you're doing an after show or you're doing a business show or you're doing, I don't know, sometime how-to or career-based type of podcast.
Yeah, there are some podcasts. Let's take a passion podcast as an example that is not necessarily looking to monetize, but is looking to grow their community. There is a way to put your episodes out differently than a monetized type of podcast that would have a whole different strategy. So absolutely, when it comes to, we'll do interview-based episodes, or interview-based clients that have podcasts that are all interview-based. We'll have clients that like to do monologues. We have clients that do panel conversations. We have clients that will send us a mixed track as opposed to individual tracks. So we really do want to, when we onboard you, we want to share with you what the best practices are. Also, we don't want to give you another to do, not another task on your list. So if we can make it easier for you when you send us an episode, for example, I use a schedule management app. I'm sure there's a ton of them out there. If you're just asking the right questions if you're an interview-based show, and you're asking the right questions before that guest comes on the show, we can actually take the content that's created using that scheduling app rather than go back to you and say, hey, can you give me that link again for that guest? Or what is
really helpful.
So all of that stuff, we're talking time saver, huge time saver. If we just set you up properly for success to begin with, then oftentimes success is a lot easier for you. And the other side of it too is we don't want to be a time suck. I talked to somebody just the other day. They're spending 35 hours a week between the production, the posting, and the promotion of their podcast. And I'm thinking 35 hours a week for one episode, 35 hours a week. And I asked him, I said, point blank, I said, are you looking to monetize your show, or are you just looking to build a community? He says, no, I want to make money. I said, well, how's that working for you? He says, I'm still trying to figure it out. And I'm like, 175 episodes in, can you imagine how many hours that he has put into his show without monetizing this thing? I'm like, I want to have you start monetizing this thing tomorrow. When can we meet? So he's going through right now all the mental gymnastics of, how are you going to, like, you're telling me, Doug, that I'm going to be able to do this in less than an hour a week and have the same results? I said, you can't be any worse off than not making any money. So,
yeah.
So I said,
it's like almost in a way of you're trying not to insult him, but kudos to him, whoever this is, to stick with it that long and not be able to monetize from the end result of, especially just time served, 35 hours a week, just getting per episode. That's a lot of time and a lot of passion behind it.
Huge. But between doing the research for his guest, which I can streamline for him, the actual production, the editing itself, which I could streamline for him by taking it off of his hands, and the promotion, I can give him a template to put things into. I was very surprised in the time, and he's had his show, I think, a little under 2 years now. And under 2 years, I'm thinking, how have you not figured out a system? He's an engineer by trade, so I know that he really wants to have like everything lined up perfect. And I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, but I'm saying there is a cost benefit of having everything I'm going to say this, and I hope it doesn't come across wrong. Do not let perfect be the enemy of done. And I'm not saying that means botch everything and put it all together and slap it together. Plug into a system that is tried and true, that works. And that, the difference between a 99 and 100, your listeners will never know. You might know because you're like, I'm a perfectionist. It's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You have another episode that's coming out next week. I'm not saying make it good enough. I'm just saying that 1 degree of difference will not separate you from a guy that's monetizing versus not monetizing. Stop doing all of that work.
Right. One way to quickly make an impact is asking him what is 70% of his standard.
Oh, interesting.
And if it's 70% up to his standard, giving him I guess you would say, a plan moving forward and how to increase from that 70% rather than trying to get to that 100. And I'm just telling you, that's the way the engineer type of mind works, because I'm ex-engineer, because I have to, there's like a lot of measuring, reassessing, a lot of lining. I cut 5 times. Measure 5 times, then cut once, So I have to make sure if I'm going to make a move, then I am going to see that return I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a huge return. I'm just looking to move the needle and then measure and reassess what happened and how did I get that at 1 degree. So,
well, when you work in a silo and you're the only one that is working, you have a very hard time seeing the forest for the trees.
100%, man.
And when you bring in somebody that's outside and they're actually, this is what they do, they're an expert at this, and they say, hey, just try these 2 or 3 things. And I promise you, it will not have an effect on the quality of your show, but you'll see some positive results and you'll be more productive and efficient. When you start to do that with people, then their eyes, it's like the whole idea, and we talked about this last time, Chris, is like the whole idea of not just having a podcast bucket and saying everything goes in the bucket, but actually having a strategy if you're going to be a community builder, an influence grower, or a money maker, just having 3 separate strategies. I'm not saying you can't do all 3,
100%.
but at the same time, knowing what you are doing with that particular episode will make a huge difference in your results.
I got a question from one of my dearest friends back from the education trade school world. He was actually my last BOSS, right?
Okay.
So,
all right.
And yeah, man. And his name is Mr. Raphael. If you're watching this, he's on LinkedIn. He sent me a message. Dear friend, he's ex-military like myself. We used to be in the military, not together, obviously, but similar core values and the same type of way we go about handling things and making things happen, right? And we really worked extremely well together. I think with the time at the campus, to give you a little bit more context, that campus never hit a start for like 2 years. And then by the time that we put him and I together and kind of working on some things and knowing how he operates and how I operate, one thing I try to do as a leader is be the first one in, last one out. The purpose of me bringing this up, because he's running obviously a educational type of program, product, service, and good, and trying to grow community. So a lot of people with podcasting, they want to monetize, and that's absolutely, I mean, you're going to have to monetize, but he's looking morely to investigate different types of angles and opportunities for his listeners and community to grow that as quickly as possible, but also not just trying to get rapid growth, to understand the method behind the madness. So if you had so say for instance, if that was more that type of customer avatar, how would you go about handling that?
So a couple ways that you can do that. First of all, understand that when you first start podcasting, although you hope your community in whatever the outside world that you had comes along with you, not always the case. So you're going to need to build a community, and figure you're going to be building it from scratch unless you're like a guy like Tim Ferriss that's going to bring millions of people along with you. The best way for you to do that is not actually even through your podcast. It's going to be from you going on other people's podcasts. Because where do you find other podcast listeners? They're listening to other people's podcasts. So if you take your message and have a solid call to action, with the call to action being, hey, listen to my show also, it's not like you're stealing. It's not like if I went on Chris's show, I'm stealing his listener. If I go to Chris's show, he's sharing his community with me, and those community listeners will want to listen if I share my message in a proper light and I have a good lesson. The other thing that you can do, if you want to do it solely through your podcast, is do it through the guests that come on your show. When I come on my show, what I share with everybody is I think I talked about this last time, I share my rules. My rules are, you got to listen to the show because I want you to know how I talk and how I treat my community. I want you to subscribe. I want you to rate and review my show, because why would you want to come on my show if it didn't have good ratings? So please rate and review my show. And the final thing, number 4, is I want you to share with me what your plans are to share your episode on my show with your community.
Oh, I love that.
And that bold statement is not pleading with them, oh, please, please, please share it. It's, I'm going to bring you into a light that many other podcast hosts have never brought you before. And by you sharing that story of your message on my podcast with your community, they're going to hear it differently than every other show that just read the bio and read the 5 generic questions and all that. I'm going to have a conversation that's going to open you up to your community. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for your community. And it's going to be good because you're going to share my episode with you on your episode on my show with your community. By far, as a podcaster, those rules have increased my listenership dramatically. I mean, we have 4 million downloads of our show over the last 6 years. I know this is a strategy that works. I started using it on year 2 when I figured it out. And once I figured it out, it was absolutely a way to get me more ratings and reviews, more subscribes, more listens, more stickiness to my audience.
Right.
And I got them to share the episode with their community as well. So it was a win for everybody.
Win, win, win.
Exactly.
It was a win-win. I was counting it in my head. So when you're and that's a perfect answer to that. And I loved it at the very end. And I suffer from this when I started to interview guests. I didn't have a hard time asking. It's just that my standards were vastly different than theirs of promoting the show. And I noticed quickly early on, if I didn't have that conversation, and I call it a tie down, listen, here's what I expect. Here's how I go about promoting the show.
Yep.
Is there some way that you can meet me in the middle, depending on if I'm able to get you X, Y. I mean, obviously it depends on the person, right? X, Y, more clients. I mean, because I do have a pretty good reach and I'm very blessed.
Yep.
But if I ask those questions, they're going to tell me how they want to promote the show.
I 100%, I'm going to go yes and
Okay,
yes
good.
and
Thank
this.
you.
Here's where most new podcasters, or those that are even seasoned podcasters but haven't been putting this strategy into place. Here's the issue. Here's what they think. They think that person is doing you a favor by coming on your show. And I would tell you it's just the opposite. You own a media company. You are doing them a favor by exposing their message to your community, number one, but you're also doing them a favor by exposing their message to their community, because you're going to be so good at podcasting. Once you can get rid of all the stuff that you shouldn't be doing, if you're doing production and editing and you're not an audio producer, why are you doing that? It's not in your zone of genius. So take it off of your plate. Let somebody, for the small amount of money it's going to cost you, get it out. Get your brain free to be able to spend more time on your spend more time building your content library. And I'd rather you put out a second episode every week rather than spending that much time doing production, because your message is not in your editing. Your message comes in the content that you are creating. And I know the world wants to hear it. You are obligated to share your message. If you're good at it and it's your gift, share your message with the world and get your head out of the editing game.
Right. And I appreciate you saying yes and then, then, right, or but, because there's, like, for myself, this because you've listened to my show, I put a lot of time and effort into my projects or the people that I am going to interview. So I feel that it's my moral obligation to extract the information from the guest differently somewhat to be able to help the listeners. They show up for me, but they stay for the guest. Also, stay because of the questions I'm going to ask to be able to get the information out of that guest. And I do it in a way of making sure that, and I tried this method, I guess you would say, with some of the people that I've come in contact with over the years and years and years. And they've been on, I don't know how many shows, but when they come on my show, and I'm very blessed to say this, and I'm so grateful, they shared a different message than they normally would share with a normal podcaster. And that's where I think that you can not just grow your reach, but just for their listeners and the people that do follow them, they'll go, oh my God, that was a great interview. I've never heard, I've been following him for years or her for years. I've never heard them say that.
Well, that's where we want to get. Right. That's where we separate ourselves from a production company. And you know this, Chris, I know I'm speaking to the, to the choir here when I say this, but we are not just people that want to put a rubber stamp and edit and produce your podcast episodes. We want to, yes, that is how we earn our living. But the other side of it is too, let us help you become successful at podcasting. It's not just, how do I churn as many episodes? It's like, how do I put these episodes together, make a quality piece of content for you to be proud of, to put out to the world. And then let's come back and let's start working on community building, influence gathering, and money making, because that's really the key. Those three buckets are the key to success in podcasting.
So say, for instance, there's a community member hearing this right now and they are getting post-production done and someone is getting their editing, but they're not really happy about the results they're getting. Okay. And they're open to obviously learn more about what you are offering exclusively for our community. And if you are that person, you might as well just go ahead and take action if you already have that thought, in my opinion. But if they're going to move on, like, what would be the easiest way for hit the ground running with your production, and that way giving you everything you need? There's no really rush, but you know what I'm saying.
So where I would probably start, and this is not a sales tactic, this is just where I would probably start. Right. I would probably go all in. I would probably say, hey, I want to do the advanced level because now I'm going to have a discovery call as a part of it. And I want to learn exactly how to do that. If you're just somebody that wants to continue putting content out there, great. And we can do that. And we've priced it so that we are competitive. Now, look, the lowest price is a race to the bottom. I never wanted to be the lowest price. And if you're looking for low price, don't come to us. However, if you're looking for a good solid price that won't blow the budget on production and editing, take our standard package. If you want to understand what you have your hands on when it comes to podcasting, if you're 20 or 30 or 50 episodes and you haven't seen results, meaning you haven't converted anyone in your audience to a client, or you haven't gotten anybody to even reach out to you, I would look at starting with the advanced package, because you can always go back down. And if you wanted to start out on the lower package, the standard package, you can do that. And then you're not going to get any different results that way though. So
Mm-hmm.
go in full bore, go in with the advanced package, get the discovery call also so that we can do a 60-minute dive. And there is a special on that. And it's only one that we're offering just because you're a WinJet customer. So just know that the stuff that you're getting when you're signing on with us right now is the cheapest, the lowest, the best investment that you're possibly going to make when it comes to production, editing, and coaching. I have
100%.
coached many clients before for much more dollars than I am doing it, but I know I know where we're heading with this network, and I'm proud to be a part of the network. So happy to pass on a low price offer just so that we can put as many people into this program as I know want to be successful at podcasting.
And I appreciate that because our community definitely does appreciate it. Maybe perhaps they might not know why now, but they'll know when they see the outcome. And you know how it is. There was a question that came in, Carolyn, and I saw it was from Miss Nina. Can you put that question out there? It was something to do with podcasting and YouTube. If you could put that question, there we go. Like, what do you do if your show is on YouTube and podcast? What are 2 different types of editing for each media matter for the guests? All right, Doug, that's a good question. Thank you, Nina.
Great question, Nina. Thanks. So what we will do is in that initial stage, in that discovery call, we want to make sure that you're set up so that many of the things that people do that are YouTubers are often very visual. So if you don't have a how-to cooking show, let's say, or if you do have a how-to cooking show, you're probably pointing a lot, you're sharing a lot of information, you're saying, look how good this looks. We just have to help you change your language just a little bit so that same content can be used on an audio podcast as well. From an editing perspective, you're just going to run your video full bore unless you make some huge gaffes in there because that's just the reality of YouTube. The cuts are a little bit more challenging to make. On audio podcasts, though, we can remove vocal tracks. We can remove the ums and the ahs, some dead space. We can do a whole different grouping of things with audio that we can't necessarily do with video without at the price that we're offering. Now we can do full blown video editing, but it will be significantly more if you end up doing some heavy cuts.
Would you suggest people using a platform like StreamYard that makes it a little bit easier when it comes to video editing and formatting?
Yeah, when it comes to this, like this kind of thing, if you're actually just taking this StreamYard video and you're downloading it, which I know you can do with StreamYard, it's great. You just take this entire thing and you post this up to YouTube. Easy to do. As a matter of fact, we're happy to do that for you. So it's one less step that you need to do, and there's no cost to do that. We would just need the files. Right. On the other side of it, if we're going to get into more advanced video editing, yeah, there would be another cost that's associated with it. But for the most part, I would just take your podcasting is a very intimate channel, and you're in people's ear. So you want to make that audio as highly produced, crisp and clear as possible. And if I'm doing video, many times, just one element is the audio of it. So we want to make sure that we prepare you for video and audio at the same time.
There's a lot of our podcasters that do have multiple shows. So say, for instance, if someone has 2 shows or 3 shows, what would that, obviously the package would change depending on the duration or how length of each episode, but is it something, do you have something available for someone that does have a couple different shows?
I would say the best thing to do is let's just quote it, instead of just signing up for a specific package, just reach out or come on this show next week and say, hey, I have 3 shows. I'm ready to go. Can you help me with that? We'll figure out something that makes sense. Obviously, if you're in the advanced stages, your coaching doesn't have to be done ×3. It could be, one package would be the advanced package and the other 2 might be the standard package. So we'll figure it out. We're all new at this game of working together as a partner, a strategic partner. So at the same time, I want to be fair to everybody, but we also have a team to pay, and I want to be fair to them.
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, the main thing is not draining that orange, right? All the juice is figuring out. I mean, there's not a one size fit all for every solution, right, or every situation, and you want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. I mean, that's one thing that you're doing also with the community, just letting everyone know, like 2 p.m. Eastern every Monday. Right. You'll see this baby face or a little scruff next week. I'm not sure if he's going to grow it back, but obviously he'll be here to answer a lot of your questions. So make sure to utilize in the community app at 843-396-2104. I'll say again, 843-396-2104. Text turnkey or Doug Sandler and then ask the question and submit those in prior to him going live on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. He'll have the questions there a little bit more prepared. Maybe he can expand a little further to really help you out. So that's going to be extremely helpful. And just by that, we're doing it once a week, I believe that it's going to really answer a lot of questions way before they even come up with them.
Yeah, Chris, the other thing I would be happy to offer, again, I try to lead with value and support and service. So if we get a group big enough together, once we start the process and we start enrolling enough people in this, we can take it beyond just this call. This is 100%. But this is more like a broadcast, although people can ask, like, Nina, thank you for your questions. It's not as easy to converse back and forth. So at some point, I would love to have just a big Zoom room where we have, 10, 15, 20 people asking these are my questions of the week, or these are my questions for the last 2 weeks. Can you help me, resolve these? And absolutely, I would love to participate in something like that. Again, with your permission, Chris.
Oh, no, I would love it. I would be honored. That would be very helpful. Even for myself, I got a lot out of just this conversation that you opened my eyes about another area of opportunity, even when it goes back to me repurposing some of the older stuff when I refused to I couldn't find the right editing team. And I was like, well, I got to move. Right. So I was like, well, let me ask a couple other people. And then by the time I got to what I needed, I was like, well, they're not, when you grow with your show, and you're growing, obviously, with your value, and you're growing with the guests, you want to definitely make sure the editing team or the services you have are growing with you.
Agreed.
And if that's not happening, that's something you need to definitely take a look at, podcaster.
Agreed.
So,
thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. Orist, where can you see the various packages inside of Kajabi? If you go to Kajabi, it's moving from Kajabi to our winjet.com. We'll have a standalone system. We did the Kajabi just for the beta test, but we do have the new system up with Kajabi. We're not going to pull the plug until maybe 60 days after it's on a standalone system, just to make sure there's no issues. But Orist, just to answer your question, they are inside of, every time you go to the link in there, click on the link and you should see the description of the services that Turnkey and Doug Sandler do offer. So I hope that helps. All right, guys. Anything else, Doug, you want to add?
I appreciate you opening up the opportunity to chat with the community, and that's the name of the game. I found that when we had just a DIY program, a lot of our clients were they weren't as successful as they could have been. And once I put the community and the support into it, we flipped the switch, and it was all about now successfully launched shows followed by successful production beyond that. So I'm excited to participate in this group.
No, I'm excited if you just be here, man. It's just, I think everything comes full circle. You were the first person I talked to with that, just because obviously Joe. And it's funny that now that obviously you went on a year and a half, almost 2 years, getting that process down the road. I'm like, hey, Doug, I need some help.
I'm still here.
I need some help, not just for me, everybody. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I appreciate you again, guys. Be well, be you, be great. If you're looking for services, make sure you're going inside the system and finding those. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can text us at 843-396-2104. I say again, 843-396-2104 if you're not watching this streaming on the bottom of this.
No,
or send an email at admin@winjet.com.
And Chris won't be here next week, so it'll just be you and me, peeps.
That's right. That's right.
So we can have some talk.
That's right. Go all the way in. Doug, I appreciate you again. Thank you so much. Appreciate
my
you.
pleasure, Chris. Thanks.
All right, no problem. Carolyn, hit it. Let's go.
This podcast is part of the Winjet Studios network, where podcasters come together to focus on community, collaboration, and collective impact. For more information on how to apply to join the network, go to www.winject.com. That's WINJECT.com. If you're ready to make a difference through podcasting,